Have you ever thought about what it would be like to play your favorite sport somewhere else? Like, really somewhere else? It's a fun idea, right? Well, today, we're going to dig into the actual physics of playing America's pastime on the moon. Okay, so let's get right to it. The big question. You're on the moon, you swing the bat, you get that perfect crack, and the ball just takes off. But where does it go? How far? What would a real moonshot home run actually look like? Well, the simplest answer comes down to one single number: 6. See, the moon's gravity is only about 1/6 of what we have here on Earth. So, if you forget about air resistance, because there isn't any, that ball you just launched is going to fly about 6 times farther and, get this, 6 times higher. Absolutely incredible. So let's dive into that first idea, what we'll call the moonshot home run. Think about it. The ultimate home run derby, right on the lunar surface. Every single swing sends the ball practically into orbit. I mean, it sounds like a dream come true for any power hitter, doesn't it? And what's so wild is that you're not any stronger. The player's swing has the exact same power, the same energy as it would on Earth. But because there's so little gravity and zero air to slow the ball down, that same exact swing produces an unbelievable result. We are literally talking about home runs that could travel for miles. Okay, but here's the catch. As awesome as that sounds, this dream scenario runs into some huge problems. I mean, like completely game-breaking problems. What do you do when the very thing that makes it so cool also makes it impossible to actually play? The consequences are just mind-boggling. If the ball flies 6 times farther, well, your outfield has to be 6 times deeper, right? But think about area. That means the entire field has to be 36 times bigger. 36. Try to picture your favorite ballpark. Now imagine 35 more of them all taped together. It's just gigantic. And that, of course, leads to some pretty obvious practical questions. How could an outfielder possibly see a baseball that's miles away? How on Earth, or on the moon, I guess, do you build a pressurized stadium that big? The whole thing just becomes a logistical nightmare. That amazing dream game? Yeah, it's pretty much impossible. So we're at a crossroads, right? We have this incredible idea for a game that just can't work. Well, the physicists who've thought about this have basically come up with two ways forward. And each one forces us to change something fundamental about the game of baseball. So here are your two choices, plain and simple. Option 1, keep the ball, change the stadium. Build that absurdly massive field we were just talking about. Or option 2, keep the stadium the same size as a regular one, back on Earth, but you have to totally reinvent the baseball itself. Okay, let's break down that first option, the same ball scenario. You use a regular baseball. And just like we said, the distance it travels, how high it goes, and how long it stays in the air, it all gets multiplied by a factor of about 6. This just confirms what we already figured out. You get an epic game, for sure, but one that's pretty much impossible to play. All right, now for option 2, the same stadium idea. And this is where things get really, really weird. If you want the ball to fly the same distance as it does on Earth, you have to change the ball. Specifically, you have to increase its mass, the actual amount of stuff inside it, by more than 6 times. We're talking about a baseball that is ridiculously heavy. And this whole idea, playing in a regular stadium but with this super heavy ball, well, it creates a brand new sport. The physicists who came up with this actually have a name for it: bullet time baseball. And trust me, it would feel like nothing you've ever seen on a field before. So what is bullet time baseball? Well, think about it like this. The energy from the bat swing, the kinetic energy, is exactly the same. But now, all that power is being pushed into a ball that's way heavier. The result? The ball itself moves so much slower. The entire game would look like it's playing out in this beautiful, graceful slow motion. Just how much slower? We're talking about 40%. The speed of a batted ball would be only about 2/5 of what you'd see on Earth. Just try to imagine that. The field is the same size, but the ball just kind of floats through the air. It almost looked like you were playing baseball underwater. Now, slower definitely does not mean less exciting. Because that ball is so massive, its momentum, its oomph when it's moving, is actually way higher. The paper paints this amazing picture. An outfielder who can already jump 6 times higher because of the low gravity makes this incredible leaping catch, and the sheer force of the ball she just caught carries her right over the outfield wall. How cool is that? All of this might sound like some far-off sci-fi movie, but the physicist who wrote the paper about this wanted to bring it to life. He wanted to make it real. So how do you actually get a feel for the physics of moon baseball without, going to the moon? Simple. You build one. The author actually created a prototype moon ball so that people could hold it, feel it, and get a real hands-on sense of what we're talking about. And the way he made it is just brilliant in its simplicity. You start with a little iron cannonball to get that heavy mass, then you wrap it up in some duct tape, followed by a layer of white tape to make it look right, and for the finishing touch, you just draw the stitches on with a pen. It's such a great, low-tech way to make some really high-level physics feel real. Now, of course, a real game-ready moon ball would be a whole other story. It would be a huge engineering challenge. You'd have to get the bounciness just right. You'd have to deal with its massive rotational inertia. That's what makes it hard to spin, which means throwing a curveball would be almost impossible. And oh yeah, you'd need to make sure it doesn't just shatter the bat on impact. But that homemade prototype, it does its job perfectly. Because when you hold it, you immediately feel the difference between mass and weight. The mass is the stuff in the ball, all 31 ounces of it. The weight is just how hard gravity pulls on that stuff. And here's the kicker. On the moon, this incredibly massive ball would actually weigh the same as a normal 5-ounce baseball does right here on Earth. Isn't that wild? And that brings us to the perfect final thought, a question that the paper itself asks, and it just perfectly sums up how weird and wonderful moon baseball would be. Let's go back to that outfielder. She makes the incredible catch, but the ball's sheer momentum carries her over the outfield wall. So, is it a home run? Or is it an out? It's a whole new rule for a whole new ball game, and something fun to think about.